Hello everybody, my name is Jason Pyne, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about 5 lessons from the book The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Cardone has a really interesting way of looking at things in both business and in life, and while I don't agree with everything in this book, there are definitely some key takeaways, and here are 5 lessons from the 10X Rule. The first lesson is to visualize your goals. And this is really interesting. Cardone in the book talks about how when he writes out his goals, he says, and this is really interesting, Cardone in the book talks about when he writes out his goals, he approaches each goal with, I have X, Y, and Z, or I will X, Y, and Z. Whereas usually when we write our goals, it's very objective based. I have to do this, or I have to get this done. And I think this is a really interesting way of approaching it because it makes it that much more like cool. You know, I can actually do it if you're like, I have done this, or I have done X, Y, and Z, as opposed to approaching it with a objective mindset. Most times when we write out our goals, they are very objective based, and therefore they can seem very distant and harder to get to. But Cardone argues that approaching it as if they've already been completed helps them become visualized, and is also like, cool, you know, I can get this done, and it helps motivate us. And we'll talk about the 10X rule and what that is a little bit later, but he also talks about how for larger and bigger and ambitious goals, this can help make them seem a little bit more realistic, and how it's like, oh, cool, I can get that done, no problem. And while the work to do that is still there, and potentially it could be a lot of work, it makes it seem like it's not as unrealistic as you may have once thought. Cardone also argues that goals have to be accompanied by an actionable goal. Meaning, let's say your goal is to learn how to play Eruption by Van Halen. And that might be a great goal and you might attain it, but why do you actually want to do that? And he argues that you need something to accompany that goal. So let's say your goal is to learn to play Eruption by Van Halen, but then your actionable goal is to play Eruption by Van Halen at a concert to raise money for a charity. And this is really interesting as well because it gives it more of a meaning to have that goal realized than just saying, oh, I got to get that done. The second lesson from the book is the 4 degrees of action. And this is one of the things I found really interesting, is the 4 degrees of action are do nothing, retreat, take normal amounts of action, and take massive amounts of action. And I found this really interesting. In the book, Cardone talks about how each of the 4 degrees requires the same amount of effort. So he argues that doing the massive amount is the one that you should do because each of them takes the same amount, but the massive one has the best results if you go for it. So you should aim to always do the massive action. Obviously this is easier said than done because we each go through periods where we do all 4. But at the end of the day, we're all human, so it's only human that at some point or another will go through all 4. You can't do the massive every single time. You can only, do as best as you can do, and that's the thing, is that people most of the time are trying to do their best. Well, that was kind of a side tangent. Anyway, number 3. The fourth lesson is to learn from our failures. And looking back, it's always easy to be like, oh yeah, I took this away from that experience, or I learned this from that. But going through a period of something that is unpleasant, or you gotta learn something the hard way, it's not always fun. And the author touches on this, and I think it's a really valuable lesson. And I definitely think it's something very important to take away. One of the big takeaways from the book as well. And lesson number 5 is to apply the 10X rule. Now, if you made it this far in the video, you might be wondering, well, what is the 10x rule? And the 10x rule essentially is to apply 10x the amount of effort to whatever you do in life. So whether that's connecting with people, whether that's working somewhere, working a job, whatever it is, the point of the book is if you apply 10x the amount of effort, obviously it's going to be a lot more work and it's going to be very tiring. But the author argues, at the end of the day, if that 10x amount of effort is applied over a long, sustained period of time, it can be very rewarding. And obviously that takes a long time to happen and manifest, but I think it's something we're trying, because with anything, when you put in more effort, you usually get better results. And while I don't agree with everything that's written in the book, The 10X Rule, it definitely is worth a read. It's very interesting the way it's written, and yeah, definitely give it a shot. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Please share this video, and also down below, if you could subscribe with that red subscribe button and click the bell, it would really go a long way. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.